Yo, what's up everybody, it's Shelly, and today I'm going to be reviewing all of the Jeffree Star eyeshadow palettes, and my camera already died and I was a little bit all the way through this, so we're gonna do this a little bit more quickly than I was before, but we're going to start with the Mini Controversy palette. This is actually one of my favorite palettes that he has created so far. This only consists of 9 shades, and this is one that I take and travel with very often. The Diet Root Beer shade is an amazing color to put in my crease that I use like all the time, and eyeshadow, like an eye look I use all the time is using the Diet Root Beer, the Cry on My Couch all over my eye, and then using my boyfriend's purse on my eyelid. So I definitely give this a 9.5 out of 10. This is a really good palette that I will grab and use often. Next, we have the Mini Jawbreaker Palette. So this palette is also a mini. It has 9 shades in it and mostly consists of purples and orange shades, and I only really grab or use this for using purple eyeshadows. My favorite or the best color in this palette, in my opinion, is the Oral shade. It's just really pretty on the eye, but other than that I don't really reach for it often. I'd probably give this eyeshadow palette a 5.7 on the scale. It's just not my overall favorite, but I definitely use it like more often than some of his other palettes. Next, we are going to hop to the Orgy Palette. So this is basically a lot of shades of nude. I just recently got it from the winter mystery boxes, but it's really beautiful if you are a makeup artist and if you work with a ton of different people with different skin tones. Obviously there's more shades that are within the middle and that go beyond this that need to be made as well to be inclusive of people, but I think that this palette is really beautiful. But I wish there were some shimmers, but obviously that's not what he was going for, and this is a very unique palette for that particular reason. I give this probably a 4.8 on the scale. I haven't reached for it much because you can find these in other eyeshadow palettes. Next, we're gonna go to the Conspiracy palette. So this palette, you can find a lot of the other shades in the, I don't want to blind you guys, in the Mini Controversy, right, the Mini Controversy palette. Basically the whole first row is kind of a copy of that palette. So for that I already kind of give it like a little, and in my opinion this whole second row is a little bit unusable shades. I don't reach for them very often, but this last row I use this maroon shade if I'm wearing maroon, which I only have about one maroon shirt and I don't wear it often, but that's about it. I give this maybe like a 5.5 on this scale. I'll reach for this if I have this instead of my mini around, but I don't really reach for this more often than my mini palette. Next, we're going to hop to the Jawbreaker palette. I actually have yet to use this palette. It's definitely very vibrant and has a lot of shades. There are so many shimmers and mattes in here, which is very beautiful, and there's a lot you can do with this palette. I like how it's not really arranged in a certain way from light to dark, so you can kind of do whatever you want with it, and that's kind of what makes it unique and special in its own way. I'm really excited to experiment with this and have a little bit more fun with my makeup. That's why I purchased this palette overall, and that's why you kind of buy Jeffree's makeup. But I have yet to use this, so I'm gonna have to give it a little bit of a lower score I'm going to give it a 3.7 right now, even though I know it's really beautiful. That's the only reason I'm going to give it a low score. Sorry guys, I know it's like a lot of people's favorites. Next, we're going to go to the controversial Cremated Palette. Even though it's controversial, it's very, very beautiful. This palette has a lot of shimmers, and it's beautiful for smoky eye looks, which I don't do personally very often, but it works well with other eyeshadow palettes that you may already have that have browns or gray tones. So that's why I initially bought it, to work with the Orgy palette, but this also is a beautiful standalone palette, and I will give this palette probably a 7, honestly, because it has a lot of beautiful shades and stuff that I know that I can use on a regular basis while doing makeup. Next, we are going to look at the Blood Money palette. I almost couldn't open it for a second because I forgot how to open it. I don't want to blind you all again, but here is the palette. You can see it. I actually have yet to use this either, and I've had this a little bit longer. I don't wear green. I don't know why I buy these things. I think it's really beautiful. I think it has a lot of beautiful browns in here as well, and I like how this actually has more greens in it than the Alien palette. So for that, I'm gonna give it a 6.4. This definitely has green, and the Alien palette didn't, and we're gonna get to that a little bit later. But I definitely like this palette. It's beautiful. It screams money and like vault, so love it. Next, we're gonna go to Blue Blood. This is a beautiful palette. I wear blue a little bit more often. I've used this palette a little bit more often than some of the other ones. There's a few nudes in here. Sorry, I'm blinding you guys. And I like just the array. There's a little bit more variety in here. I don't know. Overall, I really just kind of like this palette. Even though I don't grab for it often, I feel like I can give this palette like close to an 8, honestly, and not feel bad about it. Like, this is a pretty good eyeshadow palette. Next, we're gonna go for the Bloodlust palette. This is a very luxurious feeling palette. It's just all velvet. I actually have yet to use this one either, and I can say I'm gonna rate this pretty low because I use the mini Jawbreaker, or the mini breaker, sorry, the mini breaker palette more often, or I think about it more often than this palette. I think I've maybe used this once, and it was the Wet Jewel shade. But this doesn't scream a lot of purples, and I know that when this came out, a few people were upset that there was a red and black shade, and they're just like, it's a little bit muted. There's not a lot of shimmers. It doesn't kind of pop out in your face a little bit. And with the shades in the mini breaker, it is kind of, these are a little bit better for me in terms of purple. So with that, I'm gonna actually have to give this probably a like 2.7 on the scale, and it was expensive. So next we have the Alien palette, which is discontinued. Oh, do I have some things to say about the Alien palette? Kind of underwhelming. Very unique design though, so that gives it some points in my book. But this is only really good for smoky eyes in my opinion, and what I've mostly used it for. There's not like many or much green in here, which was really underwhelming when getting this palette or receiving it. And for that, I give it about a 3.7 or 3.6 on the scale. It just underperforms in my opinion of what I was like anticipating him releasing for an Alien palette, but Blood Money beats this one out for sure. Next we have the Androgyny Palette. This one I actually love, and I got in one of the mystery boxes, and this is stunning, and I highly recommend it to anybody who doesn't already have this palette. I'm gonna have to rank this like a 9.2. This palette is amazing. I wasn't gonna buy it unless it was given to me in one of the mystery boxes. Oh my goodness, get this palette if you don't already have it. It's amazing. I love it. It has so many like interesting shades that actually work for so many things that I didn't realize. It's great for just neutral tones. Even if it doesn't look like it, it has what you need. Next, Blood Sugar. The Blood Sugar palette. Wow, do I have some things to say about this palette? I feel like it's mostly nudes. It's not a lot of reds, and again, that's kind of disappointing for me. I feel like there's better reds in distributed throughout some of his other palettes than in this particular palette, which makes it very upsetting for me. Overall, I do like this palette as a whole, so I'm probably gonna give it like a 4 like total, but it's really depressing how like the reds don't pop. They really don't, and like the shimmer reds don't work for me at all. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4. But it's a really cool component, but his other components are better. Last but not least, I have the renowned Morphe Jeffree. Save your money and go get something off of his website. Sorry, my camera cut off if you didn't hear that. But I'm going to list those all in order for you guys of what my best to worst is. I've also had Thirsty palette in the past, which didn't perform well for me at all, and he's returning that palette, so let me know how that guy like worked out for you guys. The blue pigment didn't work, the yellow didn't work, so want to know your all's opinions on the Thirsty palette. I'm gonna give that like a 1.5 because it just didn't work well at all for me, like not at all. I really wouldn't spend your money, and I know that he has another palette like this, so let me know what you guys think about his other palette that's like about this size, if I should get it or not. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and let me know what you guys think about his palettes and where you would rank them. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.